Hello, another Wednesday, another Lawo Lounge. Welcome again to another tech-packed 45 minutes of all things Lawo. Now don't forget, we are live, so feel free to use the chat window if you have any questions during the show or just want to say hi, and we will respond directly. On this week's show, our audio production team are back in focus with news for you on how our solutions are supporting a growing need for automated TV production. Also coming up, we see how our audio technology is helping broadcast the largest music concerts as we go on the road to Brazil. And we will be introducing to you the latest member of our A-Line series, the new A-Line MADI 6 product. This and more things audio on the show. But first, yes, you've guessed it, we start as always with the answer to last week's 50-year quiz question. The question was, what is the name of our deep packet media inspection and network analyzer? Now, were you smart enough to get it right? Well, it was B, SmartScope. If you did, some Lawo giveaways may be on the way to you shortly. Another 50 years quiz question coming at the end of the show. Now, it's been a challenging time for our marketing team over the past months, with practically all trade shows having been cancelled. So I caught up with Andreas Hilmer, our Director of Marketing and Communications, to find out what life's been like for his team, as we meet and greet. Hi Andreas.
Hi Jamie.
Well, you're certainly not in your home office today by the looks of it.
As you can clearly say, no, but still socially distanced.
Now, I know it's been a really busy time for you recently with the last months of chaos, so firstly I want to say thanks for joining me today. I would say that you're a pretty well-known face for Lawo, but for those who don't know you, what's a good way to describe what you do at Lawo?
So my role is Director Marketing and Communications. So I kind of envision where Lawo might want to be in the future and try to make that happen with my marketing team. So it's about wrapping the products and make them accessible to the market.
Now, obviously the COVID-19 situation has had a real dramatic effect on our normal marketing activities. So can you explain a little bit about what's been going on in your world over the past couple of months?
I mean, obviously this year is different to any other. All the trade shows got cancelled, but not all at once, all in sequence. And I just learned that cancelling a trade show is also creating quite some effort. I didn't expect that. And in addition to basically dealing with all these trade show cancellations, we had the normal stuff going on and had to invent obviously ways to get the message across via different means, like this Lawo Lounge, where I'm currently preparing for the live show this afternoon. So it's not been boring.
It's certainly a lot more work for me on that front as well. But anyway, now it's quick fire question round. This is where I'm going to shoot 10 questions at you in 30 seconds so we can get to know you a little bit better, okay? Are you ready?
Yeah, but Jamie, hey, let's turn it around this time. People want to get you to know better as well. Is that okay for you?
Yeah, okay. Go ahead, let's do it.
Ski or surf?
Oh, I'm a skier.
Sunscreen 50 or 30?
I mean, look at my skin. It's got to be a 50.
Indian curry or Thai curry?
Indian curry. Love it.
Wine or beer?
Wine.
MG or Land Rover?
It's got to be MG.
And you would be the passenger or driver?
Always the driver. Come on.
Thought Harry or William?
I have to say Harry.
Home or hotel? That's a difficult one for you, I assume.
Well, normally I'm in a hotel, but I'm going to say home for sure this time.
You're working more, or you like working in the morning or in the evening?
No, I'm not a morning person, so it's got to be the evening.
And last for you, a little bit UK-centric. Bundesliga or Premier League? Let's find out.
It's got to be Premier League. I have to admit, I'm a Tottenham fan. I guess somebody has to be, all right?
Yes,
so
some should
that's
be around.
Anyway, thanks, Andreas. That was a bit of a surprise, but thanks for taking the time today. And I hope to see you in the office, maybe in that studio next week, all right?
Yeah, looking forward to that. Thanks for having me in your show.
No problem. Take care. See you soon. Bye.
See you soon. Bye-bye.
Providing solutions that support both traditional and automated TV production applications is critical to ensuring flexible and protected investments. In the audio domain, this covers topics such as auto mix possibilities that support operators both in small and large productions across all applications. Lucas Zwicker is here to tell you more as we go in focus with our audio production solutions.
Thank you, Jamie. Welcome everyone to this Lawo Lounge session. I'm Lucas and I want to talk with you a little bit about automation procedures that we see in our industry today. The possibilities did grow over the last couple of years and we've seen some things establish. Let's look into it. Automation in TV production all got started with some mixing assists. So the first thing we want to look at is audio follows video. We have a sound control room that is associated to some processing in our data center. And we have some event manager. So for example, VSM being a control system that also takes care about tally and event. So VSM talks to the console core via a management network. And it can do that either via remote monopole or Ember Plus, or back in the days, that happened over hardware GPIOs. What VSM will do is that it sends an event trigger to the console. Open up this fader with the associated event number. Let's have a look how that works. We have our MX GUI open and we can see that we have a camera microphone, so camera 6 stereo mic, that has the audio follows video event number 6 associated. To indicate a little bit better, I switched the meter to post fader, so I can see with my input meter there's some audio coming in. If I now change the Ember trigger to be true, I can see that the event comes up and the audio goes through since the fader is moved. And the same way back, if I change it back to 0 to false, it will be faded down. We can also have a look on that on the fader. So if we open up the main display and do the same game again, we will see the fader going up when the trigger becomes true. And based on the audio follows video parameters that I can configure down here, if I remove the trigger again after the on time, it will go back over the fall time to 0. Before we have an even deeper look into what automation systems the MC² consoles can work with, I would like to share an interview with you that we pre-recorded earlier the week when I did talk to one of our industry leaders and he talked about what's their view on automation. I now have the chance to talk to Michael Noonan, who's Senior Manager for Broadcast Operations at Bell Media. Hey Michael, how are you doing?
I'm very well, Lucas, thank you.
So let me ask you some questions to understand in which way Bell Media is using automated operations for the TV production. So first off, when did you start applying automation to your broadcast workflow? And what was the initial trigger to go that way?
Well, the initial trigger, I hope everyone's sitting down, is to try and find efficiencies, to try and save some money. Let's be really honest. That's the number one driving force. The fact that there are some very particular advantages that come along with automation, which are a side effect of the automation, and the fact that you've done it in order to save money, that's great. But really, especially in news production, the driving force is, do we still need these giant galleries full of people? And what's the smallest number of humans we need, augmented by much better technology, to allow us to keep the same production level, the same quality, or the production content value, but without having armies of people around? That's, I'm sorry to say, I think the number one reason why you would attempt to use automation.
What kind of productions are we looking at that you automate at your place? So is it news or sports or?
Well, yes. I mean, particularly at Bell Media, it's news first, and then it's news. Even our sports is news. We have not yet attempted to automate actual sporting events. The actual event at the venue and the field of play is very much done conventionally. That's fine, but that's sort of away from us, yeah? I mean, in terms of what happens in the broadcast center, even for our sports service, TSN, the bulk of what we do in the building for TSN is news. It happens to be sports news, but it's still news.
So talking about those two people that are still in the control room, what do they actually do, and what measures can they take in order to make sure that things are going the way that you want to have it?
Okay, so I mean, it is most typically two persons, but that is almost changeable on a case-by-case basis. Some programs, for instance, are tremendously heavy in terms of their font use or their graphics use. So it may be that for certain shows, there's 3 people in the control room because we've decided we need to add a dedicated graphics operator rather than a general purpose automation operator. Other programs might similarly be affected in the sense that maybe a show is very audio heavy, and so despite the fact that the automation system can contend under normal circumstances with switching and handling the mix, maybe a certain show needs to have a dedicated A1. So yes, but it is normally 2 bodies, one of whom we happen to call them production automation directors and production automation floaters. They between the 2 of them, one handles direction and switching and is sort of in charge of the rundown. And the other, meanwhile, is doing playback. Or the playback tends to be pulled through by the automation system, so you don't actually have to have someone pressing play, but you do need someone minding robotic cameras. You need someone doing font. You need someone timing the show, acting as an AD or a PA. All of the other job functions coalesce into one of those 2 people. And again, it changes by site. So across the country, we handle automating news slightly differently depending on the requirements of the region or the local station. And then we take a very specific look at crewing or staffing for every individual show because they're all different. Sometimes we have only one person in the control room. But the truth of the matter is the what's the expression? The proof of the pudding is in the eating. Well, the proof of automation is in the watching. If we can put a clean show to air that's devoid of error, well, then everything worked. It's pretty simple. And the producers, of course, who have not yet been automated, we still have human producers. They'll be perfectly happy to tell us what we did wrong or what they want to improved for the next program.
But that's great, because in the end it closes a little bit the circle in that matter, that we're still depending on the dedication of our single colleagues who are handling the show, and so it's still a human who drives the overall success of our program.
Yeah, it is, and in that sense, that's a little bit why I was saying, depending on what you call automation, we've been doing it for a very long time, but we used to think that automation was something that was explicitly required by a specific circumstance. So, for instance, when I started my career, auto racing and Nordic events, other linear sporting events, were still done very manually. The first auto races that I did, you had hands-on faders and were following the World Cut. But it was very shortly thereafter where we started to use automation. Now, it wasn't complicated automation, it was tally-triggered audio follows video. But that's an automation of a very specific sort. And so once we had audio follows video, everyone went, okay, great, that's how you do golf, that's how you do auto racing, that's how you do bobsled racing. But then as soon as you came back to the studio for news, you stopped thinking about automation again. So one of the things that I'm sort of keen to do is to automate everything that can be automated, so that we can focus on all of that stuff that cannot be automated. Apart from that consideration, though, look, where can we use automation to make things better? Well, we use audio follows all the time. I've got, my operators have, these giant consoles. Oh yeah, Lawo makes them. That's anyways, these big Lawo consoles with lots and lots of faders. If somebody else in the control room is going to push a button to make something happen, and I can cause their activity to be an assistance to the audio man, because I can make a fader open up automatically when something goes to air, well, why wouldn't I do that? That's going to improve the quality of the show, because there's less chance of an error resulting in something happening on air. I still want my guy to have his hand on the fader to decide how loud that thing is, or maybe to EQ it or to fit it into the mix. But in terms of the traffic of all of those events, those myriad events that happen during a show, if we can have automation, even in its simplest form, help us in that regard and make things more consistent, well, we're improving the product.
Yeah, and Michael, thanks for saying that, because I'm absolutely with you. And for us, that's one of the major reasons why we're still striving for automation, or maybe let's also call it mixing assist possibilities, so that our engineers and your engineers are relieved from the busy work they have to do during the production, and can focus a little bit more on maybe the sonic quality and improve that, and by doing so, bring the end product to another level. Yeah,
and so there's I absolutely agree, and there's a really elegant example of that. It was the case here in Canada that we rarely ever had the kinds of capital budgets that would allow us the luxury of something like a Dan Dugan auto mixer. The very first day I saw one of my audio operators, a very skilled veteran mixer, do a panel show with an auto mixer in circuit. I watched him do something that I guarantee you he hadn't done in a long time, and that was he reached for an EQ. Yeah. In the old days, your hands were tied to those faders, and every time you had to take your hand off a fader, there was a chance you were going to make a mistake. So unless something was extraordinarily bad, you didn't try corrective EQ, or you might only managed to have done a corrective EQ if there was a big rumble or something. But you would never have afforded yourself the luxury of trying to make something sound better, because you were too busy doing editorial. Now, auto mixers were initially seen as a really bad thing in my environment, because guys thought, well, what do you need me for if the auto mixer is going to decide who we're listening to when? But we really quickly made the obvious point that what I need you to do is to do the thing you're best at. Use your ears, your skill, and your hands to make this thing sound better. I don't need you doing traffic. I can use technology for that. We joke often, Lucas, that in this automated world that we're all sort of in now, that I joke that R2D2 is an excellent switcher, but a horrible mixer. We know how to use technology to make things better, and we don't always do that.
That's great, and I think we're exactly on the same page here. So, but talking about technology and looking forward, what would you expect from vendors like us being Lawo in order to be even better in the future and to maybe even enhance those kind of automated workflows or assisted workflows?
Well, I'll give you the answer that I would like to see as a career audio professional, and then I'll give you the answer that I think the market wants. What I would like to see is everything being easier. I say often to my engineering colleagues, it doesn't matter if it works. It only matters if it's operable in the kinds of environments in which we need it to be operable. Production, live production, is not a gentle thing. It's panicky. You've got too much bad coffee in your stomach. You've been up for too long. People are too stressed, and they're yelling at you, and there's information coming from. We need the technology to continue to get better in the sense of making it easier, more intuitive, more direct, to make the technology more transparent, to make it possible for me to interact instinctively with the media that we're working with. That's what I would like to see. What does the market want? Well, if automation is the big buzzword, automation is one of the big buzzwords. Of course, everybody wants everything to be in the cloud now too, so that's another big buzzword. I'm not sure what that means for audio, but I'll tell you what I do know about, and that's the power of machine learning. We're just now beginning to see at the edges of the audio ecosystem, particularly in post-production, firstly, but of course, happily, we have technical systems now that finally let us use some post-production style tools in a production environment, things like plugins, for instance. But what we're noticing over the last couple of years is the very leading edge of audio processing, which is sort of leveraging this machine learning idea to legitimately start to short circuit the skills of a trained A1. There's a very little chance that the average production automation operator is going to have the time in their life to become a really good audio man or woman. And beyond some very simplistic things to do with EQ or dynamics, they will likely never develop the sorts of skills that someone who has spent their life doing audio will have. Fair enough. Right now, either I bring an audio specialist into the room and help them EQ the microphone for the host of that news program, which is automated, and store that for them so that at least they have some of the benefit of trained ears. Or I look forward to a time when I have the kind of tools that can bring some machine learning power to bear and never be as good as a human, but pretty darn close. Most especially in circumstances or markets where you maybe don't even have trained audio guys anymore. The market needs us to start showing that there can be some real upside to, I don't know if we'll ever be in the cloud, I don't even know what that means, but the kinds of cognitive services that we're now seeing, things like clouds being able to do for us, and then even at a very small scale, those small examples of machine learning that we're seeing manifest in client or edge software. I think that's the real excitement and the real possibility forward for technology.
I agree. Plugins like the ones from Isotope, or also we have some friends in Austria here, Sonable, that really build great tools that help a semi-skilled operator to enhance the sonic quality of what they produce. And I think we will see that rather sooner than later become an integral part of our daily mixing tools as well. Michael, thanks a lot. That has been a really great chat. Thanks for your availability.
You're very welcome.
I hope you take care and talk soon somewhere.
Fantastic. Thank you, Lucas.
While Bell Media is working with ROS Overdrive, there are further automation systems that are compatible. So first of all, we have Ignite from Grass Valley. Ignite is using Ember Plus to talk with their console systems. Second, there's ROS Overdrive. While there was a proprietary protocol from ROS that is also implemented in MC² consoles, in the latest projects, ROS also moved over to Ember Plus. Last not least, there's Viz Mozart from VizRT. Mozart is making use of Remote Monopol to remote control our consoles. No matter which of those automation systems shall be used, or if it is maybe even a completely different automation system, let's have a look on some systems designs, how a setup could look like. In its simplest form, we could make use of an MC² microcore. The microcore provides 256 audio I/O channels based on SMPTE's ST2022-7 with 196 DSP channels, up to 8 auto mix groups on only 3 rack units. And of course, it features our well-known MC² algorithms. Putting it into a system, it would be connected to both a management network and a SMPTE ST2110-30 network, where we could find some audio I/Os for conversion to baseband, like analog, AS3 or MADI. Furthermore, there would be a control area with any kind of control system that could make use of Ember Plus, Remote Monopol, or even just some bare GPIOs. But we could also put a fader panel there to remote control and overdub certain fader movements. This fader panel could either be an associated panel dedicated to the automation system, or just any third-party Mackie Hui controller that would then talk directly to the MC² microcore. Scaling up, there would be another possibility based on the smallest A-line UHD core system that we provide. In this scenario, it teams up with a Nova 37. While my overall number of SMPTE ST2022-7 channels remains, the Nova 37 would provide additional 512 I/Os based on MADI. It would extend the number of processing channels to 256, and it would also extend the number of automix groups to 32 based on the A-line UHD core processing. While a single system would not look too radically different, it gets interesting when you're looking for more than one automated control room. Based on A-line UHD core, you could share the internal resources for up to 4 individual mixing consoles. So on only 14 RU, you would have 4 fully fledged control rooms. Of course, in its biggest variant, we could make use of a Nova 73. Then we could scale up the system to up to 3072 audio I/Os based on SMPTE 2022-7. We could have up to 1024 DSP processing channels and 32 automix groups. This should be enough for some serious production. Talking about automix, in the later following Did You Know section, Frank Mosch will show us how automix works with MC² consoles.
I've got a 3-panel discussion here, which I'm going to automix. So let's first listen to it without any automix on it.
spielen kann. Da muss erst ein Converter die ganze Geschichte wieder entpacken und Audio draus machen.
Der Nachteil des alten Systems ist aber, dass diese matrizierten Surround-Kanäle in der Bandbreite limitiert sind. Sie können, glaube ich, nur bis so und so viel Kilohertz.
So that was quite roomy, right? Let's add some automix to that so I don't have to chase the mics the whole time. I've got 8 automix groups in my console, and I can, as I said, add any amount of channels and also any format and even groups if I wanted. So I'm gonna select those 3 channels, which I've got here on the console, and I'm gonna add them to automix group 1. So I can go into the automix page here, and I simply select 1. Since I've got them all 3 selected, they're now all part of automix 1. And I think we should just listen to it again and see if that's improved already.
Also ist in 5.1 hergestellt worden, aufgenommen worden, gemischt worden wahrscheinlich, und dann hat man da auch einen Dolby Surround Track, im Übrigen vermutlich Dolby Digital 5.1 Track.
Well, that was already a lot better, and without doing anything other than just adding the automix. So there's a couple of things I can do to improve it even further if I wanted to. And that I can do on the automix page, which I've got here. In this page, I can see which elements are being controlled by which automix. So I'm using automix 1 for my panel discussion. So I see my 3 panel channels in here. And I can choose from the drop down to look at any of the other available automixes. Remember that from 6.4 onwards, with the UHD core, we will offer 32 automix groups in here. I can give it a label, so I know what this automix is controlling. It's controlling my panel discussion. And I can also distinguish between the different automix using different colors. So I'll make this one yellow. The channels show the channel level as well as the automix level, like it does in the channel display. And below that I have this fader, which is not the channel fader, it's a weight fader. And the weight fader can be used to increase or decrease the importance or the weight of that specific channel within the automix. If this would be my host or my moderator, and I might want to give him a bit of an advantage in case the discussion gets very heated, then I will raise his weight by, let's say, 6-7 dBs. And now he won't get louder on air. He will only be considered 6 or 7 dBs louder in the automix. So if they're all talking through one another, my moderator will win in the automix in the end. If that still isn't enough, if the discussion really gets out of hand, I can also take him out completely by turning it off. So now my channel 1 is not part of the automix. It's still assigned to the automix, but I've turned automix on, so it's not considered in the automix. So now only channel 2 and 3 are automixed in this case. And I can do that at will. I can turn it on and off. On top, I've got a couple of global parameters. Attack and release are to determine the speed at which automix reacts to level changes. And with the floor, I can determine whether mics are being completely cut when they're considered closed, or whether I want them only dimmed by a certain amount. Then I can say, set this, for instance, to -20. So those are the elements I can set in my automix page. I can also get the weight on a free control by right-clicking and selecting to clipboard. It will then appear on the clipboard of the console, and from there I can then put it on the free controls of the respective channels. And by doing so, I have direct control over the weight, as you can see. So I can control the weight, but I can also turn a channel on and off from the control surface right away. So I can very easily change the weight as well as temporarily turn off the channel in the automix. It's still assigned to it, but it won't get affected by it. So that was a very classic example of automixing a panel discussion. In this case, I only had 3 mics, but as you know, you can add as many as you want. And we can use the same technique for auto-mixing announcers or commentators. They're typically in a very loud stadium, and if one of them is talking, then the other two mics are still open, but just picking up a lot of unwanted noise. So if we add them to an auto mix, we will greatly improve the announce mix or the commentator mix. I've prepared that on this bank. I've got 3 announcers, much like the panel discussion, and I've already added them to an auto mix. So you see, exactly like in the case of the panel discussion, we will have 3 mics being auto mixed. I've sent them to a group bus, so my announce mix is available as a subgroup, which I can then take a step further by adding that, and now I go to another auto mix, adding that announce mix together with my international sound to a auto mix. And what happens then is that as soon as my announcers talk, they will push down the international sound, which gives me the opportunity to push my international sound even more. Normally with a static mix, I would have to play it safe because I don't want to drown out the announcers or the commentators. But if I use auto mix, I can push it more because as soon as the announcers start to talk, they will push down the international sound, which gives me a lot more international sound without risking drowning out my announcers. So that's another really cool way of using auto mix. And another one that's also being used in practice is people use it for field of play mics, where you might not have position-based action. So the action which you want to cover might not necessarily be based on the position where it happens. So if you have a couple of field of play mics and split them up in sections, and then for each section you use an auto mix, you get the best possible mic within that section auto mixed, and you can simply go from one section to another instead of having to figure out which mic is the one that picks up the sound at best. So that's being used as well for auto mix. So you see there's a lot of ways you can use auto mix, not just for a classic panel discussion. There's a lot more, and there's obviously the more people use it, the more they come up with more cool ways of using it.
In 2019, we expanded the A-Line series of products, providing meanwhile 7 different devices, from small 1RU conversion products to large stage boxes, either based on XLR or Sub-D. All these devices are IP by nature, supporting all relevant standards like AES67, SMPTE ST2110-3031, or redundancy based on SMPTE ST2022-7. No matter if you want to use them into your local environment or in remote production, since all the devices have redundancy class buffer according to class C, you can use them in your WAN environment. In order to allow your transition to IP at your pace, the latest edition was the AIM86. It provides up to 384 channels of MADI to IP conversion. In order to fit into your environment, since it's an SFP-based product, it can make use of either multi-mode or single-mode fiber SFPs, but also electrical MADI. The A-Stage 64 is the successor for the MC2 Compact I/O, but it also allows for redundant connections. No matter if your application is in outside broadcast, studio production, recording or performing arts, you will find your perfect fit in the A-Line series of products. For further information, just refer to our website on www.lawo.com.
Now it's time to go on the road again to visit another of our important customer installations. This week we go to Sao Paulo to visit EPI Studios, who own a fleet of OB trucks to support the broadcasts of some of the largest live events in the country. Take a look as we say bom dia to our friends in Brazil.
A good sound depends on a number of factors. The most important is that the signals we pick up need to be high quality. Broadcasters like us, who deal with live performances, need to be able to provide a good sound. The performance has to be good, of course. The instruments need to sound good. We need top-notch microphones and a good signal. In most instances, good sound is a combination of a number of factors. The console obviously plays an important part in the signal chain. I'm Marcelo Freitas, and I've been working at EPA since 2009. The EPA team likes to think of itself as a bridge. We quite literally connect the artists or the artistic side to the broadcaster in this particular case. Working for a broadcaster is a very rewarding job because each day is different. I learn a lot each day. Being passionate about audio equipment and technology also helps. We're especially interested in consoles with both a superbly musical sound and a flexible feature set that allows us to cater to the requirements regarding signal distribution and so on. Our mobile unit uses the most advanced OB trucks in Brazil. This one is equipped with a Lawo console. Our partnership with Lawo started about 4 years ago. The MC56 is a highly dynamic console with flexible routing options that allow me to easily transmit the required signals to the right destinations. It's connected to our network, and this makes it easy to exchange signals. I like its highly interactive user interface and its logical layout. To me, it has the feeling of an analog desk. Us sound engineers don't consider ourselves technical operators. We work for the music industry, and this console assists us with that. We became aware of Lawo in 2014 when we were contacted by the company's Brazilian sales rep. He invited us to fly to Rastatt in Germany to visit the Lawo facility. We jumped at the occasion to attend a one-week hands-on introduction to the consoles. Step by step, we learned about the differences between the various models and what they had in common. We quickly fell in love with the Lawo desks, so much so that by the end of the week, we decided to place our first order. I've been working with Lawo gear on an almost daily basis since 2015. The company made us feel welcome right from the start. This created a strong bond. I still remember when we did a broadcast here at Rock in Rio. We had an issue that required immediate attention from Lawo. That incident was an eye-opener. We realized that we'd not just bought a product, but also a service to match its professional quality. It made us realize that Lawo really cares about its users. This is a good example of how a situation created a strong bond between EPA and Lawo. We're working at the cutting edge here and need to meet the expectations of sound engineers from all over the world. Both they and the Brazilian crew are expected to deliver a studio-like sound. Lawo consoles allow us to do just that. I think it's safe to say that once you start working on a Lawo console, you realize it's more than just a broadcast desk, it's a true all-rounder.
Another Lawo Lounge, another 50-year quiz question. This week, we stick on the topic of our audio production product line. What is the maximum number of fully blown DSP channels at 48 kHz in our one rack unit A-line UHD core? Is it A, 256, B, 512, or C, 1024? Now, I think that's an easy question for all you MC² console owners. For your chance to win some fabulous Lawo giveaways, send your answer and contact details to lounge@lawo.com. Now, don't forget that our How-To series continues tomorrow at 2 p.m. Central European Time, where we show you how to remote control your on-air radio studio from home. So, sadly, that's it for this week's Lawo Lounge. Join me again next week. Same time, same place, where our radio product line team will be rethinking your radio network. Till then, take care, stay healthy, and stay connected. Goodbye.